sometimes you got to immerse yourself into the experience to really understand the industry and understand the problems the industry has. And I also went and got myself bra fitted, and it was very invasive, man. Like as a woman, I would feel pretty almost abused.
Well, with AI, we're utilizing it a lot more. Now, you said that it's probably going to take a lot of people's jobs.
Is it going to take over people's jobs? To some extent, yes. Like everyone at the end of the day is replaceable.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Straight to the Point. We're diving into real stories behind success. And I'm your host, Tristan Guerrero. We're joined today by Jamieson Yee, his special guest today. Global product leader, over 17 years experience in the digital e-commerce and AI-driven platforms, from leading roles at Textile Fashion Group to pioneering AI solutions at Ghost AI. Jamieson's journey is a testament to resilience and innovation. So, Jamieson, thanks you for coming on the show today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys. Love to be here. Love to talk about technology and especially the future of where we're going. So appreciate being invited to this podcast.
Of course, of course. Well, let's just dive right into it, get straight to the point of things. Jamieson, take us back to your early days and what sparked your interest in product development and technology.
Yeah, it's actually a really funny journey because back when I had first started, there wasn't really such thing as product and technology. It was, I think my very first title of when I began doing what I was doing was called Commercial Market Development Manager. I didn't even know what that actually meant back in the day. Yeah. But the idea was, actual physical product management. So I was actually looking, when I was part of Hewlett Packard in the early days, I was actually looking after a product line. And a product line could be anything. It could be their commercial notebooks. It could be their little iPads before the iPhones came out, right? There was accessories. There was, you name it, Blade workstations. That's what originally product management was about. You managed a product line. Now with the digital age, it's changed immensely. And I was lucky enough to fall into it. I didn't really search out like back when I started. The internet isn't what it is today. So, everyone spends time on their iPhones. There's applications. There's e-commerce websites, you name it. There's everything to do with technology out there today. Back then, I was just lucky to land into a very small company at the time in digital product management. And they were a very small company doing concerts and events. And that first company was called Live Nation, which is one of the biggest entertainment companies today. So I ended up going from physical product management and ending in digital, where I was trying to figure out back then, how do I manage something where I can't physically touch the product? Because essentially what I was managing was then 23 different websites in 13 different languages across Europe and the UK. So that was sort of my early stages of how I ended into it. Now, as my career has grown, I've obviously been in digital. As digital has grown, I've managed to be in it a lot more and be actually evolving with the way that technology is evolving. So going back to your question, I think I was very lucky to just fall into it at the right time. And I think it was that right place at right time moment. So it's not like I went out there and said, I want to get into product and technology. I just somehow ended up falling into it.
Wow. That's incredible. Live Nation is extremely well known, especially now. Like, I'm sure you have played a major role into developing it, to what it is. So that's pretty incredible, man. That's remarkable.
Yeah, I hope I did. I think back then was around when we merged and became Ticketmaster at the same time. So I think a lot of the early days of Live Nation was really building and growing and scaling that. And a lot of what I have done in the rest of my career has really been taken lessons and learnings and failures from back then to where we are, where I am today.
Would you say, Jamieson, that you took a bet on yourself when you decided to go down that route, or like what was like the thought process like, right, when you took something like that on?
Honestly, it was like, holy fuck. It was like, honestly, it just happened, man. And I don't know if I even placed a bet on myself. I think that was my only bet, was I just got to just go at it and try it. At that stage, digital was still new. And I knew it was risky because of what everyone had just come out of this .com boom, and then it obviously crashed, and now it's like back up again. And I remember my auntie, probably back in the early 90s, she's a very successful in HR. And she was saying to me, even when I remember that, it's always stuck in the back of my head, you should go into things to do with digital e-commerce. E-commerce was like a big, thing back then as well, websites, whatever. And I feel like that's kind of stuck with me through that way. So I think I didn't really see myself hedging my bets on myself, but I did see myself hedging the bets on, I think digital technology is the way forward, where we're going in terms of the future. And that's kind of the vision that I've always kept. And I think that's what's helped me be successful as technology has grown over the years.
Yeah, it was like the digital gold rush.
It was, exactly it. Yeah, 100%. It's a good way to put it.
Now you said that this opportunity just kind of fell on your lap, just going about your day, and you're like, boom, this just came out of nowhere. And what made you want to take that step and take that risk?
The honest
Yeah.
truth was I wanted to. So the story that I could tell you is that, you know, when I ended up with a Hewlett Packard and I ended up with Live Nation, the whole premise of working for Live Nation wasn't because it was a cool music entertainment company. The real sole reason was because I wanted to move to London to work. And I was with Hewlett Packard in Australia. They transferred me to work in the UK. But I don't know if you guys know the UK well, but Hewlett Packard's office is 2 hours outside of LA. It's in a place called Bracknell. And I was traveling and commuting from London to Bracknell every day. It was almost like my drive down to Orange County this morning. It's like 2 hours each way. And so at that point, I just decided in my life that if I'm going to live in London, I may as well work in London. And that's how I ended up with Live Nation. Live Nation was actually one of the very first companies that I got almost headhunted for come into this. And I remember my boss at the time, his name was Mark Jovich. I think he's now the president of Live Nation. He was like, you have no digital website experience whatsoever, but your drive and your tenacity and willingness to learn is what really helped me get that role. So I think that was really, again, a little bit of luck. I think everything has to do with luck in the right place in the right time. And Mark was obviously saw something in me that helped me sort of grow my career into a world which was very foreign at that time for product managers because we had physical product lines.
I think it's incredible. It's powerful, right? How somebody who sees potential in yourself, right, is able to like mentor you, you know, into being able to develop and like reach your own highest potential, you know, like I think that's super powerful, you know, and especially in today's world where, you know, we have so much information in the palm of our hand already, but like the guidance and the mentorship that's needed in order to like have those breakthroughs.
Yep.
I think that's super powerful.
Well, isn't that any leader's role though these days? Like that's what it should be about. You might not have the skills, you might not have the experience, right, doing what you're doing, but you've got one person that takes a chance on you and says, you know what, you can do this. I feel like you've got the right. It's not what you know, because that can be taught. It's about whether you've got the initial sort of, I guess, I don't even know how to describe it, but even if you've got that drive inside you to want to learn, I feel like that lesson that I learned off Mark, I actually learned off a previous, remember I was telling you about Hewlett Packard?
Yeah.
My boss at the time, Paul Robson, I think he's now the CEO of MYOB, which is a big company in Australia. I think he took a chance on me because he's like, you're a graduate. You got no idea about what commercial market development manager is, but he immediately saw something in me that said, I'm going to teach you that stuff, right? I can teach you that if you've got the aptitude to want to learn. And I think that's what has instilled into me in as I've grown in my career into leadership positions, is not to take anyone at face value, you know, not to just look at a resume that you see today and you go, oh, this person's got like, 10 years experience. They're going to be amazing.
Right.
I've hired people like that and they're being terrible.
Dang.
And I've found that some of the best people who I've managed to be able to bring on is through exactly what you just mentioned, which is around the mentoring coaching, but not from me. It's just about their drive to want to succeed and wanted to learn. And I've got a lot of people who I've taken into my career, into leadership positions that I've now employed, taking the same approach. They have far surpassed me. Which is amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's my proudest thing I've ever done. Isn't just all the great stuff I've done in my resume. It's more around how I've been able to develop and grow these people. But I'm only a small portion of that equation. It's them that are the biggest part of the equation that's made them successful. I've just given them a chance.
Totally.
Like I've been given a chance.
Yeah. I mean, coming out as a college graduate, it's super hard to find a job, even like right out of college, because I was talking with my buddy because he was out of a job almost a year. We're too overqualified with an undergrad degree to get an entry-level job, but then we're not yet qualified because we don't have that experience yet to get that higher level position that we desired out of college. And it's almost like, what do you do?
But that's where it's so fundamentally wrong, right? Because for me, it's the same sort of thing. Like everyone goes, oh, you got to put your education on your resume. It's like, why? I don't give a hell. I don't give a fuck where you've come from or what you've done. But what I can see is the commitment and drive to see something through. So it's not necessarily about like, I don't care if you've even done a Bachelor of Arts in something completely different to what, technology is. If I can see that you've got the commitment to be able to see something through from end to end, that shows me you've got some tenacity. That shows me you've got some drive. People talk about GPAs here in the US, right? Like I don't come from the US. I'm an Australian. We do have an idea of like what GPAs are, but like I'm not going to look at you and say, oh, well, I'm not going to hire you because you got like a 4.0 GPA. Like you may have a 4.0 GPA. I don't know if that's good. I think that's good actually, by the way.
That's
But
really good.
that might be really good. But at the end of the day, if I meet you and you don't fit the, I guess, soft skills of the requirements, because there's obviously hard skills for the requirement that you're going to need. Like obviously, if you're a physician, you're going to need those skills, right? But for what we do in technology, it is really about like what can you bring to the table as a person and as a in terms of your soft skills. That's the stuff that sometimes you can't teach. I can't teach you how to be innovative, right? That comes from an idea of either you've got the vision or you maybe don't. And I work with a lot of engineers who don't want to be like that. I don't want to see what the future looks like. I just want to do what you tell me and I'll just do what I need to do. They want to stick their head in the code. That's all they want to do. Then you got other people, the visionaries that you do. And if I can see, oh, you can actually take a problem and then see a vision of how to solve that, that's a skill. That's a skill that college you don't graduate with a degree from.
Right.
That is just a skill that you have. So going back to your point, it is really tricky, right? Especially for new grads coming out, because you are excelled, you've got great academic credentials, you've managed to graduate, but then someone's like, you need experience. Well, how do you get experience if you don't have experience, right? So you've just got to have that take of, and I think it is really tricky. I mean, that's where I think it's a little bit backwards, where people go, oh, you should do an internship. And it's like, okay, I can go do an internship. Maybe an internship turns into an actual job, but that's some of the ways that I've sort of looked at it initially is like, people say, I don't have experience. Well, try and get the experience. I mean, try and even use previous projects that you've worked on personally to think about how those skills could then be applied and try and highlight them to the recruiter or to the employer that you're trying to get, who's telling you don't have the experience.
Kind of like bringing it full circle, even in like real estate, right? Like I think we started doing real estate like roughly around the same time, like 7-8 months ago now. And I mean, I personally don't have any sort of real estate background or sales background, but what I do know is I'm good with people.
Yeah.
And I know how to converse and like really just exchange conversation.
That's it.
Right. So I think highlighting and circling back those skills, right? That's what now, most people, our mentors now, kind of saw in me to be able to take a chance on me now, and I know you mentioned that innovation is a skill set, right? How do you think somebody who's possibly fresh out of college or anything can like try to master that skill?
Yeah, I think it's important to sort of understand where your passion lies, right? That's the first thing that I always say is like, figure out like what your passion is. I don't care whether it's surfing. I don't care whether it's playing football. I don't care if it's like maybe a skill like I want to be able to draw or do art or whatever. I want to be a tattooist, right? The way I've always focused on innovation is always look for disruption. Right. And so even if your passion is surfing, even if your passion is doing tattooing, even if your passion is, I don't know, whatever it may be, look at ways that people are training or learning to do this stuff and think about, is there a way I could do it better? Right. In technology, which is kind of where I come from, technology's always been a passion for me because I feel like technology can really change the way people are doing things. It's challenging the status quo of what people are doing today. What I like to do is to think about how can we do things different with technology. And I think that's from my history and my profession, I've been brought in to think about like ways of doing things which were commonly thought of that we couldn't do because maybe technology wasn't up to that same pace. Well, now technology is way ahead of a lot of things. And so now I'm like, well, that industry is ripe for disruption. That's ripe for disruption. Why does this industry have to be this way for 50 years? Like, why can't we try and change the game? And I can tell you that's exactly what I've been doing with this new sort of business that I've taken on, which is called Inspectogram, which is around home inspections, just to tie it back to real estate a little bit, is, the home inspection market is like, when you think about a customer like yourself purchasing a home, that's one of the biggest investments you're ever going to make in your life. You're talking, especially in Southern California, millions and millions of dollars, right? But home inspection reports are a small little part of that process, but it's so vital for you to understand that report.
Absolutely.
And if you look at a report today that comes out from,
It's so confusing.
it's so confusing, and there's so much terminology that you don't like. Why does the grading need to be like this, away from the base layer foundations? Like, why is that important? I have no idea. I have no fucking clue. I'm a tech guy. I'm not a home builder, but like, these are important, and the reason to know that is so that you don't get stung with foundational issues in the future. Well, reports don't tell you that flat out, right? They hide themselves in all this like jargon. They say that this is critical, but why is it so critical? Inspectogram I actually found because I'm actually buying a house myself, and I found the
Nice.
founder who did my inspection, and he showed me this application that he had built. And he's in Home Inspector, and he built it himself, primarily because he was like, the reports out there are shit, right? They're so not digestible and easily relatable to the average consumer. And so he built more of a magazine style report that makes everything digestible, not just from giving you the information, but making it educational at the same point of time. And so when we talk about going back to the point of innovation, that's the part that I love, because I see opportunities and go, why has no one gone and done this before? Why is people like Bezos so successful? Why are people like Apple, like Tim Cook, so successful? Because they've really challenged the game and decided, you know what, we're going to do something different and try and make this better. And I think with innovation, that's the way you've got to approach it. So going back, how do you train your skill on that? It's looking at specific things that you're doing today and looking at, how can I do it better? That's really one of the things that I look at. And then I think, well, then can technology solve that for me? You know?
And when you say do it better, do you mean like efficiency?
It can
It's
be
just
anything, man. Like the companies that I consult for AI right now isn't about building cool, innovative products, right? It's also thinking about how can I make AI work for them so that their teams are more efficient. So they're not spending, like example, like the home inspection. Instead of them spending 3 or 4, 5 hours out at a home doing an inspection, we can do it in under an hour with this new application that we built for them.
Wow.
So that gives him more opportunity where he's like, I don't have to hire then all these extra resources. I can actually get this done a lot quicker, and I can get through more per week.
the turnover, right, is much quicker, and
That's it.
again easier on the consumer, and then helps the inspector by being able to do more homes possibly in a day,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Well, going along with the podcast here, you've worked with different giants like Warner Music Group and AOL. So, what were some of the pivotal moments or challenges during those times that shaped your approach to product, that leadership?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pivotal shifts for me was learning how to work in different industries and looking at working in different environments. You can see Warner Music is a huge giant in the recording label business. They are considered the music industry, right? So outside of that, you've got Universal, Sony, etc. And then shifting from music to AOL, which was more around ad tech, and then moving from ad tech into fashion e-commerce, which was where I was
So
with tech
different.
stuff. It's so different. But I feel like that's what I've learned, is how to make myself adaptable to each industry, understand the industry, and then figure out how I can apply my learnings from the previous industry to this industry and vice versa. So that's how I've sort of progressed with my learnings over time. And now I'm sort of, we talk about current today, I'm like in all different industries, from, companies that are going from these large, big corporates to now these early stage startups to figure out how to be able to scale them within that industry as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you're going from industry to industry, obviously going into something brand new, you're not going to know something right away, but you do have the knowledge of AI technology, and that's what you bring up front.
Yeah.
How are you able to learn and adapt to a very high level while intermixing your skills with that company?
I think a lot of the fortunate side of what I've been doing is I'm actually working in the industry. So there's no way I can get away from that industry. I have to learn it, right?
Yeah, right.
I have to understand. And then, I don't need to be an expert in it, but I need to understand what are the problems that are, across the industry that, haven't been solved yet. And that's really how I'm applying AI to it. So a good example right now, I am with a company called Persona, and they are in the medtech world. They're around connecting the top aesthetic surgeons in the world with patients, because right now it's a very, let's just say it's a very gray area of how to find the right doctors. You go on Instagram and you see all these, these digital profiles out there, but how do you know? You see all these also the other side of the coin, which is all these botched surgeries, right, that are going on as well. So it's like, how do we bridge that gap, right? And that's kind of where I come in to sort of look at that and go, okay, well, how do I understand the med and especially the aesthetic world? Part of it is sometimes embracing it yourself and putting yourself through it. When I was with Savage X Fenty with Rihanna, we were selling lingerie, right? One of them was, I was like, why don't we solve the age-old problem of bra fit? Because bra fit is one of the biggest problems with the industry today, because I'm not sure if you boys have ever worn a bra, but it's one of the most uncomfortable things you'll ever have to wear. How do I know that? Because I went and actually wore a bra
Nice.
for a week. And I also went and got myself bra fitted as the use case of maybe a guy going through transition, right?
Okay.
And I went to experience it myself to see what the experience was. And it was very invasive, man. Like as a woman, I would feel pretty almost abused in the fact when I went to go get like literally like size for my bra, they literally took my shirt off. They had this old woman with really cold hands go around my chest with a little measuring tape trying to measure me. And I was just like, this is we got to do something
I didn't
better
even
here.
know that. Wow.
So anyway, going back to my
Yeah.
point on that, sometimes you got to immerse yourself into the experience to really understand the industry and understand the
Totally.
problems the industry has, and thinking about ways you can then go about solving that. So out of that whole experience, we actually built a whole 3D body scanning technology to do
damn,
bra
that's sick.
fits. So
Wow.
yeah.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I think kind of what you said was so key because it's not speaking from theory, right? Like,
That's
yeah,
it.
you have so many skill sets in your past and your resume is so already packed, but like now in a completely new industry, a new environment, like you're not just speaking from the theories of everything that's worked so far. It's like, how are you, again, like you said, immersing yourself into this specific industry to be able to then, elaborate, basically make it as best as it could by making it more efficient and using the technology and everything. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science. I think a lot of it is around about like try and experience it from a different point of view,
Yeah.
right? Your point of view might be different. You might be jaded because you've been doing just research on it. Throw yourself in it, put yourself in, put all your chips in and give it a try and see what happens.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And so when the stakes are high, I mean, these are obviously some very big names that you've been working with.
Mm.
I'm sure there's like deadlines, there's like high stakes involved, right? How would you say that you manage, I guess, like, is it like time management is really what the biggest thing is there? Or like, how do you say that you really, utilize your time to the best that it could, all while managing like the stress and everything that it comes with?
So in product management, we have this idea of what we call prioritization. And
Right.
prioritization in product management is really around 4 different quadrants, right? You got ones that, and when I talk about product management, it's like, if anyone comes to me with an idea like, Jamo, I want to go build this. Okay, cool. Outside of understanding the why and understand what problem we're solving, my biggest question is, well, what's the level of effort, right? If the level of effort is high, right, or low, you can gauge on that sort of one axis of high level of effort, low level of effort. The other side I've got is what's the impact, right? What's the value impact? Is it low or high? Because the question I always say to myself, if I'm working on high level of effort items with very low value, why the fuck am I working on that?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
That's true.
So a lot of what I do is I look at, well, where's the high value and the low effort? Not that I'm lazy, but like, because nothing's ever going to come in as everything's going to be low effort. But if something's at a lower level of effort, I gauge that to sort of say, is that going to be worth us working on, or me working or putting my value and attention into over this, if this is a high level of effort with low value? That's how I gauge my prioritization, right, of work. So I do this, I learned this in product management. Out of every requirement we get, we do the exact same method that I just spoke to you about. I do this in my personal life now.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Right.
what is my backlog of list of items that I got to do, that I have to do? What are the high value things, low level of effort, and then I work my way through them, right? That way I know that I'm delivering specific value. I'm delivering what I need to deliver at the right time. So going back to that is the way I manage like all these different work that comes through, how I manage my stress levels, because I'm making sure that I am working on the right work. And that's how I sort of manage it today.
Well, kind of reflecting on your journey of when you started out, taking that jump and risk into your first opportunity up until now.
Yeah.
Were there any kind of setbacks or failures that became a turning point for you to get you where you are today?
Yeah.
Maybe multiple even?
I've had lots of failures, boys. That's the part that has, I think if you let failure dictate your confidence, if you let failure dictate your success, right, I think that's where, you're definitely going to have, trouble with it, right? I think all of my failures have really been huge learning points for me. Some of those learning experiences is I've had multiple startups that have failed, right? I've had this idea and I've gone, yep, let's go do it. And, do it. And then something or rather, happens, and then you end up, selling the business, or you end up just letting it die, right? A lot of that experience has helped me sort of grow as a person, as well as a product manager of what I do today, in making sure that I'm finding the right opportunities and putting, my time against them that I think are going to work. And not everything's going to work. But the one thing I can tell you is that a lot of the learnings that I've had in those failures have helped me succeed in my current roles today. So if it wasn't for them, even though they were failures for me, I wouldn't be as successful as I am today. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I feel like there has been opportunities that, oh man, if I hadn't had that experience, I know I wouldn't have gotten this role, or I wouldn't have done this. So as much as it seems like a real down point in my career, it's actually one of the highlights.
Oh wow.
Right. And, I was actually watching a video that this guy shared with me with Gary Vee.
Oh yeah.
And he was he was having a virtual interview with a kid about our age.
Yeah.
And he said, man, I'm going through this process of starting my business, but I feel like it was a big waste of time. And Gary Vee's like, I was waiting for you to say that, because it's not a waste of time. It's like, stop thinking that it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
And like what you said, every failure is what made you who you are today. Made the best version of yourself.
And I think a lot of the companies that I've joined after these failures have really embraced almost my philosophical thought on it's okay to fail. Like a lot of the companies that you see on my resume now have been good with failure. They want to encourage failure. And I think that is something that a lot of other corporations I've been with in the past have not, embraced that. Everyone sees failure as like the worst. It's like a negative thing.
Right.
It's actually one of the most positive things, because it means you're learning, you're trying. I actually like, employees and people who I work with that have failed a lot. I don't see it as a downside. I actually think it's more of a positive, because I'm like, oh, okay, as long as they're learning from it, I think that's where you start to see them overcome those failures. And, we have this saying in Australia, if you fall off the horse, you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, you move on.
Yeah.
You can't let failure stick to you. You've just got to learn from it, dust yourself off, move forward.
I think the biggest thing there is learning from it, because a lot of people will fail doing the exact same thing over and over. And
that's it.
Definition of insanity, right?
That's
You're doing
it.
something over and over, expecting something different. And
Well, it's also, if you're not failing, you're not taking enough risk.
That's true.
You're not trying enough.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're playing it safe.
Totally. And I like how you bring that up, because I feel like people in our generation, Gen Z, or even some millennials, younger millennials, are afraid to take that first step and take that risk, because they're afraid of failure.
That's right.
I feel like it's been misconstrued in our culture that failure is bad.
Yeah.
And that's why they're hesitant to take that next step towards their dream that they hope they have. But now they're dwelling on it because they have this bunch of regret of not taking that first step. Like exactly. Like your fear to take that next step.
Yeah.
Like what advice would you give to someone afraid to take that next step? So, they should take that next step.
Well, I think the biggest thing is you got to look at your life and say, how do you want to play your life? Right. Do you want to play it safe? The analogy I like to think about is when you climb a tree, right?
Okay.
Right. If you want to climb a tree and you're just hugging onto the trunk because it's the safest part, you're not going to move close up the tree at all. You're going to literally just be stuck hugging that damn tree.
Yeah.
If you really want to succeed, you're going to have to go out onto those skinny branches and climb, right? And if you fall, great. You pick yourself up, you go back to that skinny branch, you know exactly not to take that next step on that particular branch, you move up to the next one, you move up to the next one. So I think that's the way you've just got to see it, right? Like, how do you want to play your life? Like, there are going to be times where you don't want to take those skinny branches, and that's okay. But it's really up to like you seeing like what's that tree you want to climb and how quickly you want to get to the top.
I like that.
Yeah.
Huh.
What's any decisions you've made recently, Jamieson, that most people would have played safe on? And
many. I can tell you that, I've recently gone off and done my own consulting, work and consulting for different clients. And that to me is a very risky thing. I sort of stepped away from the big corporate world and sort of went into more consulting and diving into even an industry that I know nothing about, which is this medical side with Basana. I don't know anything really about it, but in the space that I've been with them, I've been able to learn it, understand it, and really look at the opportunities there. So I think there's been some decisions that have been me dangling out in these skinny branches. I actually probably have fallen a couple of times, but I now know, like, okay, I got to pick myself up here. I know these are the clients that I don't want to be working with. These are the clients I do want to be working with. So it's really trying to stay true to that and, not trying to stay true to the fact that people are like, well, you got to be with the company for 20 plus years. I think that was our parents' generation, maybe our parents' generation. Our generation is completely different. So you've got to take those risks to be able to get to the top in your careers. You can't stick with one company for a long time.
Do you feel, or what do you think? So when you do have those minor setbacks, right, what is it that kind of gets you back on course, right? Because like I know a lot of people, they'll stay in this bubble of like, oh, I'm a failure, I can't do it. Like, what do you think? Is it like maybe like just the gym, or like how do you feel? Do you like just get yourself back on that momentum.
There are times where, yes, there are hobbies that really get my mind out of it, because I just like, I restore classic cars. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's sick.
That's
I like that.
that's a little bit of a side hobby that I do. And my wife at the moment is just like, why do you spend so much time in the garage? And I'm like, well, because I need to take
Yeah.
my mind out of work that I'm doing every day in, day out, stressful work. And I need to do it to something that I get a lot of pleasure out of. I get a lot of time to wind down. Other people play computer games. Other people go surfing. Other people go take hikes, whatever. For me, it's like, get my hands dirty in the garage is what I enjoy doing and what I love doing.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's my downtime. In any time that you have a failure like that and a setback, it is good time to reflect, right? And think about what happened, how did it happen? What are you going to do next so that you can avoid this in the future? In product management, we call it retrospectives.
Mhm.
I take the same approach with failures and setbacks in my career, in my personal life. Even if I have that, I'm like, well, what could I have done better? How am I going to, and it's not like dwelling on it. It's more about, what actions am I going to hold myself accountable to next time that this situation comes up, right? And try and honor that.
I think it's the mindset, right, that you have. Like, it's not just like you're capping yourself or you're limiting yourself. It's just like being like the determination, I think, to be able to figure it out, to be able to like push through those
Yeah.
hard times. Like, do you think that's the biggest separator amongst like those
One,
that
it is the mental. I guess part of my mentality is, it's a very Australian mentality, which is pick yourself up, man. No one's going to pick you up
yeah.
yourself. You go pick yourself up, dust yourself off. You got to move on from this.
Hmm.
Everyone's going to move on from it, and everyone does. But if you keep yourself like worrying about it, honing in on it way too much, you're going to be left behind. You're going to get stuck in that moment. You need to be able to find a way to dust yourself off. So there is a mental aptitude side of it that really has to make yourself understand that you are worth something, you are valuable. Otherwise, why the hell would these people be hiring you? And you just got to move forward. You got to set it aside, learn from it, move forward.
Like, we've both been through that situation already, and with many more to come, where we had this client and it just turned into this whole mess that we were not anticipating. And now it's
Yeah.
like she keeps coming back and we're like, how do we move on from this when someone just keep trying to get back into our life? Like, how do you
Yeah.
just push them away? And
Yeah.
like, we've been done with this already, but she keeps coming back and we're like, what?
There must be a reason why she keeps going back to you, fellas.
We're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, like we've definitely been already in the 6-7 months of our infancy in the industry, right? Like, we've already experienced quite a handful of setbacks. I mean, just given the nature of the market and like, how times are kind of in the world, I mean, it's definitely played an impact in a role. But like, I think with us specifically, like, we've just been able to like push through, right?
Yeah.
Just to have the determination of not having failure in the sense of giving up be an option for us, and as of just 2 weeks ago, pretty recently, like, we established our own brand, our own company, our own like LLC and everything like that, to
Amazing.
be able to, again, kind of put a little bit more pressure on us to be like, hey, you know what, like, it's something we've never done before, it's something we've never experienced, but in just the past 10-14 days alone, I think we've grown more in the past 6-7 months.
Yeah.
By fully immersing, exactly like you just said, right? By
That's
fully
it.
immersing yourself into what it truly is.
Yeah.
And then, utilizing all the failures and setbacks to like do better.
Yeah.
Right. This next time around.
You actually raised a really good point that I wanted to hone back in on. There are things that are going to be out of your control, and there are going to be things that are in your control. Don't sweat the things out of your control. Right, because those things, like you said, like, the world is in a very weird place right now. There's a lot of shit going on that, is completely out of your control.
Totally.
You can't sweat that, because it's like, you would be then sitting down going, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? And whatever you come up with won't control what's out of your control.
That's true. Yeah.
The stuff that you do need to think about is the stuff that you do have control over. What is that stuff? And I think knowing the difference between the two is going to be important to you understanding, okay, this really wasn't, even though it may seem like a failure, this is what I'm going to learn so that I can hold myself accountable next time too. The stuff that you have no control over, it doesn't matter what you come up with, you're not going to have control over it.
Totally. Absolutely. I wanted to transition a little bit into the future, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do you think, not fluffy talk, like, genuinely, where do you think AI is going to be heading towards, like, in the next 5, even 2, 3, 5 decade, like, in the near future? Where do you think AI is truly going to be heading?
Well, look, the funny thing with AI has been around for like 20 plus years. Like, it's now just got this brand new snazzy name that's been commercialized through ChatGPT that is like AI. We were doing AI back in the day using algorithms and data and making what we really call machine learning as AI. So I've seen it evolve over the 20 years to what it is today. Now it's obviously picked up a lot of steam because of the way that the AI is being utilized today, right? Like ChatGPT is amazing, right? There is, Google's Gemini is amazing. The stuff that it can do, like all the amount of things that you see on Instagram now where people are doing AI videos, it is crazy what you see out there. I think I saw something with like Elon Musk and Joe Biden hanging out. It was like an AI video of them hanging out. But like that stuff was like scarily real. Like it was just like, what the hell is going on here? But the idea I think where it's going is I think AI will still continue to grow and try and actually be more integrated into our lives. It's the way that you see ChatGPT today. Like a lot of things, a lot of professions. Is it going to take over people's jobs? To some extent, yes. Like I can tell you even from my role from a product manager, it's taken over some of our requirements writing. It's taken over. You want to build a PRD today, you just put it into ChatGPT and it will actually send you a whole requirements document all filled out for you. You can sit back and relax and kick up your feet. But there are definitely areas where I don't think it can replace. I think where AI is going is more around assisted technology. Right. I think that's where it's best used, around assisted decision making, assisted technology, doing the mundane stuff that you don't want to necessarily do, that spends resources and time doing. In the role, I actually read this article I think it was on LinkedIn, about this lady saying product management is dead. Right. And to an extent, some of the article was very much real with what she was saying, with AI introducing, like coming in and doing requirements. Like, what do you need the product managers for? Product managers are there to really help define what the actual requirements are, what the actual opportunities are. ChatGPT can do that today, right, for you. If you type in what's the best way to launch my own startup or launch my own feature of this, it will basically list out your step-by-step playbook. Right. Where I think it's going is in more, as I sort of said, the assisted way. And I think that's going to become common norm now, where it's actually going to help you with, like, as I sort of said, a little bit of the mundane tasks. It's going to help solve a lot of the problems with you normally having to go see a lawyer for. You could actually type in ChatGPT. It's going to educate people a little bit quicker. I think I read the other day, a really interesting statistic that people are using ChatGPT for more search now than they are using Google. That's completely overtaken the way that Google has worked, because it's literally using AI to generate the recommendations, the search patterns for them, right? And I think that's where it's really well applied. I think in specific industries, it's going to change the game. The medical industry, as I said, I don't think it's ever going to replace surgeons, but it's going to help with the education, right? And help train people up quicker than normally having to do 8 years at a college and then spending another 4 years in a program or a doctorate that you needed to be able to do to become an actual surgeon. I actually work with one of the top surgeons in the world today, and he's like, yeah, AI is going to really help with the education and training of a lot of his fellows now moving up.
Would you think maybe, like, this is like purely speculation, right? Like, let's say like the VR or meta glasses, right?
Yes.
A surgeon wearing some sort of glasses like that to be able to have, again, like the recommendations, or even like the AI talking to you, like, hey, like you do it like this. Like, do you think that's kind of what it, like you said, the assisted technology, instead of like it just completely because I don't think you can never truly take away the humanized aspect of certain industries or certain jobs.
Yes.
Is that kind of what you mean by, like,
form factors?
Crazy.
Form factors are definitely playing a huge part in, like, hardware. Form factors of hardware are playing a huge part of where AI is going. You mentioned the Apple Vision Pro, the Meta glasses. Yeah, like, even for surgeons coming in and wanting to potentially do a procedure, they have to look at multiple areas of data. They need to look at MRI, they need to look at x-rays. They need to look at, like, all the sort of history notes. All that today could be deciphered down as like pre-planning or what we call pre-surgery, where they can actually start the actual planning of the surgery before they're actually in the surgery.
Yeah.
So those ways of using that sort of data and being able to use AI to help generate almost simulations and also, approaches of how you'd want to be able to tackle something, I think is where the future's going, because with all this different technology coming through, you can now not just, use AI to generate a recommendation. You can actually visualize it now. You can, try things that you've never done before you've even done them.
I was going to say, in terms of the real estate industry, you have Inspectogram, and you have, like, I mean, that's just one little pocket of the industry as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like AI will impact real estate?
Oh, yeah.
To a certain extent.
100%. You've already seen sort of technology start to bleed into real estate, like these 3D tours, like that people set up.
Yeah.
You could tour a property without even seeing it for real. Like you can buy
Yeah.
things unseen now, and I think actually COVID really helped with that. But the idea of using technology and AI to be able to do that and be able to visualize like things like real estate, I think is going to be important. Having new formats of ways of doing things, you know, looking like I was thinking about it the other day. It's like the Apple Vision Pro that you said I wouldn't walk around wearing a set of ski goggles, but the idea is that like, yeah, you could be there and use augmented reality, not just virtual reality, but augmented reality by looking around the neighborhood, right? And seeing am I about to buy this place? What else is in this neighborhood that I want to check out? Yeah, you could use Google Maps for that, but you could actually visualize like things along the way. You know, with Inspectogram, even though we're focused on the home inspection market, that's another really great point where we could actually use AI to help generate recommendations based on someone just visually scanning the place, or we record a video with the AI and the augmented reality showing the areas of concern, right? Rather than you having to read a report.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you see a crack in the concrete or something, the AI will analyze it and say, hey, there's possible
and
foundation issue or
here are
tree
some
or something.
contractors that could come here in the local area that could come fix it for you. Like
Yeah.
those things that you can meld together from the property market or for the real estate industry, where it's like, okay, well, what are some of those things that everyone thought were like so far out in the distant future are actually right here on our doorstep right now with technology?
That's cool.
Well, with AI just adapting, and we're utilizing it a lot more at a more exponential level. Now, you said that it's probably going to take a lot of people's jobs, but it also creates the path for creating more new jobs too, right?
Yes.
But now, if someone that's in a job maybe in danger of getting taken over by AI, how are they able to adapt with new skills and mindset over the next decade?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are going to be some jobs that are going to be definitely taken over by AI, but I don't think it's going to be completely taken over. You see what I'm saying? I think there is going to be some human intervention, and especially into some particular careers for sure. You know, how do the ones that are going to be fully or mostly taken over, how do they adapt? Well, it's about learning the different skills that you can apply yourself to, or that you've got an interest in, or you've got a passion in as well, that you want to think about pivoting to. In a lot of my career, I've never chased money. I think that's the wrong move for anyone that's trying to start their careers chasing money. What really you should be chasing, and I know it sounds very corny and cliche, is really what you're passionate about. Because when you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel like a job. It's just something that you're just passionate about, that you can drive. And I take that to the same way with skills, right? Like the same sort of thing. I knew nothing about the real estate industry all that much. I took a GC course. Why? Because it's something to do with your hands. It feels like I can learn a little bit about the real estate industry by doing it. And I can probably apply that some way, shape, or form to what I'm building with Lucas, who's my business partner on Inspectogram, and figure out how I can apply that there. So I think that's the best way to look at it, is not about like, oh, I'm going to get taken over by AI. It's like, well, how can you help the AI? How can you be beneficial to the AI as well? Right. In the future, and look at ways that you can sort of almost augment yourself into a different skill set.
I think at that point, you're almost irreplaceable.
Potentially.
That's what makes you unique into your skill set, and basically your innovative mindset is what's hard to you can't replace. You can't teach that, kind of like you said.
Totally.
It's not something that AI can just go and teach somebody how to be innovative, right? It's all about the human that's behind it as well. And
so yeah, to that point, I think it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because I've worked for a lot of companies in the past that have said, oh, nobody's just a number. No one's just replaceable. And the way that they behave is not that way.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? They're like, oh, people first, and we're going to take care of our people. And everyone at the end of the day is replaceable. That's the honest truth. And that's how companies operate, especially if you say to a company says to you, oh, we're all about the people. Okay, what if you are in hundreds of millions of negative EBITDA?
Yeah.
And your OPEX spend is like through the roof. Are people still the priority here?
Right.
Because honestly, any CEO is going to tell you the priority is the business, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And if we're operating like that, then we need to get rid of people because our OPEX is too big, right?
That makes sense.
So I don't care now when a company says to me, oh, we're all about the people. We've got this chief people officer who's going to look after the people. I call bullshit at any stage, because I challenge him with that. So tell me, Mr. CEO, if you're all about the people, if you're doing negative EBITDA and your OPEX is burn through rate is way more than that, what are you going to do? And what do you think their first decision will be to curve that up? Exactly.
Yeah. It's the biggest expense.
You're not about people at the end of the day.
It's interesting. So I think to kind of save as a let's say like somebody who's 22, right, fresh out of college, fresh graduate, they're seeing almost the competition in a way of like not only challenging or going against other skilled individuals, but now with AI being in the mix, right? As somebody who's like fresh out of college or fresh into that like younger, position, what would you build? Right, kind of, you were to put yourself back in your shoes of a 22-year-old.
There's a lot. Yeah, we're unpacking a lot here. I mean, what would I build today that would be, my biggest thing is I built a lot of products in my career. You guys, like you said, are just starting out. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I built a lot of products in that time of 20 years, really successful products, really great products. God, I just sounded like Trump then, didn't I? Really great products. They're
really great.
They're really great. They're amazing. They're great people. We don't know what it does, but it's great, right? No, but I think the biggest thing is, what would I do today differently? I think what I would do is I wish I had my experience that I had now back then. I want to be building products that are going to add value to people's lives. That's what I'm trying. That's why I ended up in the health tech industry or the med tech industry. It was because I said in my career, I was selling women's lingerie and I was doing Kate Hudson's athleisure wear and like fashion. That's not really helping anyone, to be honest with you, in a legacy that I don't really want to leave. That's my proudest moment.
Pretty good moment, though.
It's a great moment, but like honestly, if I had the experience of doing what I was doing when I was 22, now I'd be like, what legacy do I want to leave behind? And then I identified this probably way late, 20 years in my career, saying that I want to be able to give back. And I found 3 areas that I figured I can give back: education, environment, or health. And that's what I chose. I chose health tech, and that's how I ended up in health tech, and that's where I am right now, because I'm hopefully going to be building products that help people. So even though I'm working for Persona right now, which is around aesthetic health, the one thing that was also one of the things that I was like, well, everyone thinks aesthetic, like cosmetic, like procedures is all like nose jobs, boob jobs, you name it. The one thing I've found by working in this industry is that a lot of these aesthetic procedures are changing people's lives. I work for one of the doctors out there. His name Dr. Babak is his name. He's actually my founder. And he's one of the only physicians, one of the experts in the world that helps facial paralysis out there. So he's one of the only physicians that is like, he's got the experience, the knowledge of helping people with facial paralysis. He texted me the other day. He's like, JMO, I'm actually going to be off for the next couple of weeks. I'm going off to do a mission to go do, these procedures for free.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, you are someone that people pay him $150,000. Like, they pay lots of money for these procedures. Now, this guy is going off and doing this on his own just to give back. Like, that's cool. That's the stuff that I want to be associated with. That's the stuff that I want to help with. I don't want to be going and selling women's underwear. Well, that was fun. I want to go and help make a difference. And if I can do that to help Babak and his team do that, that's what I want to be part of.
It's incredible.
So that's the thing you got to think about with your careers for anyone starting out is, what legacy do you guys want to leave behind? If I was to say fast forward 20 plus years for you, what would you want to be looking behind and saying, that's what I want to leave? Because if I had been told that back then, I probably would have done this a lot sooner in my career.
And I think if it's not aligned to what your vision is, then why are you doing what you're doing now?
Exactly. Exactly. So it is a good question, but like, everyone does talk about like, a lot of people are like, I just need the money to live. I need the money to live a specific lifestyle. I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to buy a Porsche, buy whatever you want in the future. That can always be your mission and vision, but you can also go about it in a different way.
I love what you said: education, health, or environment. Like those are pretty much the top. Like, those are the best ways, right? To be able to give back in some point. Exactly. I feel like every single human being, to a certain extent, can fall into either of those 3. Yeah. Like at the end of the day.
Absolutely they could. Yeah. But like, you have to be able to be wanting to make the difference in those industries too.
100%.
Right. So
I think now, especially like a lot of people are like active gym goers, or like they're hiking. And I think a lot, especially, I don't know if it's just here in Orange County or San Diego area, but like I feel like a majority of the world is now starting to venture into like health and wellness, so like,
I absolutely think so. And same as environment, man. Like, this idea that we are killing this planet is very real.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Musk fan, or I'm not like anything about that, but like the idea of what he's doing, I don't really care. I don't agree with, I don't disagree with, whatever, you do what you do. But the idea of his concept of like, is there something else out there for us to find in case this does happen? We do kill this planet. I think is a great innovation, visionary person to think that way. So
by going to Mars and stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, go to Mars
Totally.
or just finding something else. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't. yeah. So
Yeah.
I think there's those things.
Man, I mean, you actually answered one of my last questions. I was going to say, when it's all said and done, what did you want people to remember you by? You know, but I think that hit it right on the money. Just in terms of
Yeah, I don't want people to remember me for the products that I've built. I want people to remember me for the connection that I've built, the relationships that I've built.
Right.
I want people to know that, look, same going back to our very first question, I took a chance on them, and look, now they've grown up to be this, you know, VP of product, or they've become this like leader in this industry. And I think that to me is like, at least I had a little bit of a part of that equation, not the full part of the equation, but I had a little part. That's what I want to be remembered for, not for building great products.
Totally. So, well, as we're wrapping up the episode here, Jamieson, what's kind of next for you? What's up and coming? What are some goals you have set that you want to achieve over the next year or maybe two?
Yeah, the next year, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to be able to do. I definitely want to, in the couple of projects that I'm running at the moment, like I definitely want to see Pisana, you know, make a huge difference. I think it is making a huge difference out there today, and I think we're definitely new to the market, and I really want to help grow and scale that business. With Inspectogram and Lucas, I want to change that home inspection market because I think it's ripe for disruption. And I think there's better solutions out there. Everyone's using Windows 3.11. We are the iOS out there today as an analogy. And I think we, when people see that power of what we can bring, I think that's going to be super valuable. And I hope we can, honestly, in the next 1 or 2 years, I hope I can still continue to transform industries.
Totally.
Just kind of more like a personal question, I guess, right? You seem so like aligned with your soul and your spirit, right? Like, do you believe in God? I'm curious.
I did. I did believe in God. I don't anymore. But I do believe there's something up there. I don't know what it is, right? Whether you call it a God, whether you call it, I think there's someone looking out for me up there. I don't know who it is, but someone is. And I think everyone's got something or someone or God or whoever you want to believe in. I think in terms of faith, it really comes down to what you want to believe. I don't say that my belief is better or stronger than anyone else's, but I just feel that, I feel pretty at ease with knowing that something's looking out for me up there and something has helped me do what I'm doing today. I don't know what to call it though.
That makes sense. I asked that question just because, I think, like you mentioned, I think there has to be a faith somewhere or like some sort of like anchor, right, to be able to like continue to push through the hard times and like all the difficulties, the setbacks, failures, stuff like that. Like, I was just curious.
I mean, the biggest faith you got to have is yourself, right? You got to believe like that things like I mean, you don't have to. I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason. Always have been this way throughout my whole entire life. Like, I didn't get chosen for that team because of this. I'm not gonna get upset about it. I'm like, it's gonna play out. Like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna play out. As long as you keep a positive attitude around it, you keep yourself like, obviously if you're doing the same thing over and over again, like you said, it's insanity and you maybe should check yourself and go, something's not right here. But you got to be positive about the situation and know that there's a plan out there for you somewhere. And maybe you're living it. Maybe you're going off piste with it. Maybe you're going off course with it, but maybe that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
You just got to be trusting in that.
Totally. It's like ethical egoism.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a good way. Well, you got to check yourself now and then as well, right? Like you got to make sure that you're checking yourself and not, thinking that you're God or thinking that you're the best, the king or the best thing in the world. Like there is an ego check to it.
Man.
Well, I think there was a lot of great nuggets that we talked about here. Like, honestly, it inspired me to like, build what we're building, just 10x what we're doing right now.
100%.
So,
yeah, I mean, like, my only advice for you fellas is keep doing what you're doing, keep grinding. Right? Have faith in yourselves, right? You guys are smart fellas. You've just come out of or graduated. You're now building a company.
Yeah.
If I was doing that at 22 years of it, or however old you boys are.
Yeah. I'm 23. He's 25.
That's crazy.
He didn't go to college. I did.
But still, like the fact that you're doing something and you're building something and you're doing it, not many 22 or 20, 23, 25-year-old fellas would be doing this.
Okay.
So
even the whole podcast thing, like I know a lot of people are starting to try to tap into like the influencer world or digital world or anything like that. But I think the reason for our podcast and like the reason why we're even like sitting here interviewing other people is just to like kind of get that true story, right? Is to kind of hear edified people that deserve to be edified, right? Like we're not going to necessarily chase the people that have already made it because they don't need more publicity.
Yeah.
Right. Like what about the people that are in the down and dirty that have made an impact such as yourself to these well-known brands that everybody knows, right? But like everybody only knows, like, for example, like Rihanna or like Live Nation or like
Yeah.
all those like big
Yeah.
people, right? But the people that truly made the impact, such as
Who laid
yourself,
the
Jamieson, like
foundation,
those
yeah.
are the people that
Yeah.
really deserve, I think, to be edified into the position, and that's where our goal is, especially in having our online presence, is to
Yeah.
edify those certain people.
I think it's a great mission, and honestly, I like being behind the scenes. So I'm not the person that likes to be at the forefront of like, hey, that was me. I'm not that type of like person, but I do love that idea of what you're doing is like bringing it to people's attention. It's not just this big figure at the front. There's this whole thing that happens on the below the scenes, under the hood, right? That no one gets to peek into all that often.
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad I could help provide some insight to that.
Yeah, and thanks for coming out today. Like
Yeah.
taking your time and before your meeting
Yeah.
to record and have a conversation with us. So
100%.
Last but not least, Jamieson, where do you think people want to connect with you or reach out to you or like possibly even share their own ideas or anything like that? What do you think the best place to do that?
Hit me up on my website. It's just jamiesonyee.com. It's my full name.
Cool.
Always here to connect with anyone. And honestly, I think that's where I like making connections, is just through organic connections, through people finding me on my own website, people find me on LinkedIn. Don't look at my social because I never really am on it anymore. So, but yeah, so mostly LinkedIn or my own website.
Perfect.
cool. Well, Jamieson, thanks for coming out today.
Of course.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And to you guys watching, thanks for tuning in to Straight to the Point. And we'll see you guys next time.